Welcome to Autism Tips and Tools, where we highlight the best practical guidance from previous episodes of Autism Knows No Borders. Whether you're a self-advocate, a family member, or a service provider, there's something here for you. I'm Rachel Harmon, a professional in the field of autism services, outreach, and advocacy, and the following clip is from my conversation with Sarah Glass and Eliza Cagle. Although they've never met in person, Sarah and Eliza have several things in common. They're both mothers to children on the spectrum, board-certified behavior analysts, and late-diagnosed neurodivergent women. Sarah has ADHD and Eliza is autistic. Additionally, both of them have traveled with SkillCorps, our volunteer program in which autistic self-advocates and professionals visit our international partner sites and collaborate with their local teachers and therapists. Here are Sarah and Eliza talking about strategies to improve executive functioning skills and about how thinking out of the box and being able to hyper-focus has helped their careers.
So I recently moved abroad a little bit over a year ago and started working with a new company. And it was a big change for me, moving overseas and practicing ABA here in Australia. So one of the things that I did when I changed position with the company as well is that I started doing a lot of digital calendars and digital planning and digital notebooks because I'm across multiple sites where my position is the senior behavior therapist. So I'm doing BCBA supervision and case management, and it got to be really overwhelming. So I just stopped. And I was like, okay, I feel like I'm getting out of control. I need to reorganize and reorder things. So basically moved to all electronic notebooks so that I always have everything I need at any given moment as long as I have my iPad with me. I rearranged my schedule so that I had set appointments for BCBA supervision, and then I gave people days, so Friday and Tuesday, where they can schedule in their one-to-one, but it's their responsibility, not my responsibility. And really started kind of delegating some of those tasks that I was kind of micromanaging.
How about at home?
I have an amazing husband and I'm super lucky, and I can't even talk about it home because I hold it together really, really well at work, and he definitely picks up my slack at home. So he'll say things to me like, you didn't take your pill this weekend, did you? It'll be just a little gentle reminder that maybe I need to move it along a little bit in the grocery store or whatnot. But no, he's super wonderful and he's very, very helpful.
That's great.
So I tend to hyper-focus too, where I will get caught up in minute details that I want to fix. For example, if I have an FBA due, I may stress about the type font and the organization of the paragraph, that it needs to be in a APA style or whatever. And before you know it, 2 hours later, and I haven't done anything except arrange what this paper is meant to look like. So instead of like chastising myself for that and shying away from that, I will schedule times in the day that if I'm starting to feel stressed or overwhelmed, that I'll work on organizing my email for 15 minutes. And that helps me then be able to feel good about what I'm doing and then continue on with my day. And yes, I realize that's ridiculous, but it does help.
Well, it's about knowing yourself and knowing what you need.
I found that for me, specifically in high school and college, to quote unquote fix the hyper-focusing, I almost would procrastinate until things had to be turned in at the last minute, because I typically, if things had to be turned in at the last minute, my brain was so focused on just getting it done that I wouldn't sit there and hyper-focus for hours and hours on things that didn't matter. But what I found similar to you, like I almost just set timers and try to put in almost that like contingency of like, let's get as much done as quickly as possible so that I don't do that, because I will. And it's crazy like how you could be like, how did I spend 3 hours on a paragraph or a page? At the same time, it's also not wise to be at the last minute and be like, okay, now I have to finish this whole paper in 3 hours, because that creates a lot of stress.
Mm.
I cannot do that because I have found that I'm overly optimistic in what I think that I can accomplish. So I've gotten burned on that way too many times.
Yeah. So it was like this double-edged sword. Like, I'm not going to be able to write it unless it's the end. And then when you're overly optimistic or you keep procrastinating, and then it's like, oops. So.
So Sarah, you've talked about your ADHD giving you more of a creative perspective on life and out-of-the-box thinking. Eliza, what are some of your strengths related to your autism?
I would say one of my strengths would be like when you're looking at hyper focus, I would say also that it's like this ability to concentrate in one area, but really become an expert at something. You know, I was in the military when I was 18 and was a linguist. And I think it takes a certain type of brain to be able to spend 10+ hours learning a different language and just being able to focus on one thing. And I think a lot of people would drive them crazy, but I do think both autism and ADHD, like I'll say that like that was a group of people who were probably all neurodiverse just because a lot of people can't handle learning one thing for 63 straight weeks. I think how I make connections is different. Like I feel like I see things slightly differently from other people. It's neither good nor bad. It's just different. And I think when you have different perspectives on things, you come up with better answers as a group.
Yeah.
So I talked about being able to hyper-focus and make things look really pretty and unique. My brother designed my website, but I did a lot of the graphics. I did a lot of the marketing. So I definitely have that creative edge. The other thing is when I was in the States, I worked with a lot of school-age students, and middle school was my jam. It was one of my favorite groups to work with, and I was teaching executive functioning skills. And I think the reason why it worked, because I absolutely knew where those kiddos were coming from, and I was able to relate to them on that level. Some other things are, I did mention about that out-of-the-box thinking, but I can look at a given situation, and you might have a group of BCBAs that would see one thing, and I'll be able to pick out something that doesn't seem like it's relevant, but it absolutely could be, which is a unique skill. Sometimes I'm absolutely wrong, though, and it does not relate whatsoever, but sometimes, it does. The other thing is when it comes to working with other staff members is I think because I was diagnosed so late and because I know I have ADHD and I do forget things a lot, in a lot of situations, I assume that I misunderstood something or that I'm seeing it from the wrong perspective. And I don't mean that as a negative thing, but it makes me very humble in that approach. Whereas other times I've seen other people that might react differently to things, but when you're always looking at the approach of maybe I just missed something, maybe I, am not catching something, and you ask more questions, it's really helpful. And yeah, it's really good for, also I never really got really rigid about some of the BCBA rules that you see in those big Facebook debates, because I'm always thinking of, well, there's situations where that absolutely doesn't apply. And maybe it would be the way that it would be if you were in a clinical setting or in home, but that certainly isn't what it looked like in a school-based setting. So I think that while I might be rigid in some of my ways that I do things so that I don't forget things, I am not rigid in my practice at all. And I'm always open to new ideas and I always want to learn new things. So I'm very grateful that I have ADHD for those reasons.
Thanks for tuning in to Autism Knows No Borders. Would you like to know how being neurodivergent may affect someone's parenting style? Follow the link in the show notes for the full conversation with Sarah and Eliza, and be sure to subscribe for more stories from people connected to autism, inspiring change and building community. Let's work together to transform how the world relates to autism. Thanks for listening. Take care.